Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. Your host, Sal Interdonato here with co-host Steve Anderson, and we have Seth Mendelson from Black Knight Nation. We're going to recap the Wake Forest game, a 45-10 loss by the Black Knights. Really rough game for Army. But first, let's thank our sponsor, Higher Echelon. Higher Echelon is a company run by Joe Ross, former Army fullback, former Army assistant coach, former Army officer, and he was on the Black Knight Nation podcast a while back. Check our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is rising. We got about 525 subscribers right now. Trying to get to 1,000. So, guys, please like our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That thumbs up really helps get the word out there. We're gonna have a couple more guests down the road here. I know Steve is working on a couple people. I'm working on a couple people. Man, we've had some good ones lately. So, Steve, the one with the Nate Sassaman ones were great. Troy Lindley was great. Jody Glore was great. So we've been rolling there. Thanks everybody for your support, and I guess we're gonna get started here.
Sal. It's been some great guests. Not so great recaps. That's for sure.
It's been rough, man. So 1-4 now after 45-10. And now going into this game, right? Army's a heavy underdog, right? And you're like, you're going to have to play near perfect to beat the Demon Deacons, right? You're going to have to be on point offensively, defensively, special teams. And, I guess we get accustomed in the past, Steve, and Seth, when they're playing these bigger Power 5 schools, right? Last year, Wisconsin, they stay in the game. Oklahoma, Michigan, going to overtime. Ohio State, try to put up a fight there. I mean, after the first drive here and the turnover, it was rough. It was very rough. And man, I don't know that first drive. Go ahead, Seth.
I was, frankly, I didn't think we had a shot after that. I thought the heart went out of the team. The heart went out of me. That's for sure. This was one of the rough. Steve and I were just talking beforehand. He said, one of the roughest games he's dealt with, and I agree. I didn't expect us to win, but I expected us to play better. I agree with you. We've been in games against Wisconsin, against Michigan, against Oklahoma. Even Ohio State game was better than this. A lot of problems, a lot of issues.
I mean,
it has to be concerned for.
I think the biggest thing is we've been so accustomed under Monken to seeing, execution and like limited mistakes and limited penalties. Just a very disciplined team. And this year it's just been one of those years where, these guys aren't that. No one's going to ever doubt their work ethic, their effort. I know those guys are grinding, and I know, they feel it way more than we do as far as, just the frustration and, that they can play better. So, but I'm with you, Seth. After that fumble, I felt like it was just like a real solid uppercut to the gut, and just couldn't bounce back.
Yeah, Wake Forest's offense, right? I mean, and they used the running game a lot in the first half, right? Sam Hartman didn't so much hurt Army, and I was going through the game, and I didn't see Jabari Moore out there for Army. I don't think he played in this game. So your top corner's out. You got a freshman corner in Donovan Platt in, and Donovan's has gotten his snaps in this season, and he's gonna be he's going to be a pretty good cornerback, but to put him in that situation, I mean, Army had a kind of not bend, don't break defense, Steve, but they weren't going to give up the big play, right? So I guess they're playing they're going to be playing more zone than man, right? In that situation. And so what's Wake Forest going to do? They're going to do that delayed mesh or whatever you want to call it, RPO style, and Sam Hartman's going to tuck it in and wait as long as possible. And, they're going to gash you with the run.
Yeah, it was that I was watching with a couple buddies I played football with at the house, and that delayed meshes that, I was just talking about as a linebacker perspective, how, that can't be your read. It's got to be a lineman. It's got to be a tight end. It's got to be a receiver. Like, you've got to now change the keys of what you're used to when you have RPO kind of keys. to fill those gaps, fill the where you fit, fill those fits. So it's definitely difficult. But man, that running back for Wake Forest, like, he's the real deal. He'll be playing on Sundays most likely. We know the quarterback's going to, he was playing great. They're a great team. And I was, I listened to Coach Monken and how, Wake Forest had a new defensive coordinator this year and how they came out in a completely different way that they thought they were going to play them, and they anticipated it, but still very, I'm sure the offense was expecting one thing, and the Demon Deacons went into something else. So kind of interesting to hear Coach Monken talk about that.
I like to make the argument that this might have been the best team we've played among all the great teams that we've lost to, but in close games. I mean, this is a team that lost to Clemson in double overtime. Looking at it right here, 51-45. They beat a very good Florida State team by 10. Their other teams are nothing special. Actually, they beat Liberty by 1 point. There's something a little shocking. But this is a really good team. They got their offensive coordinator went up to Syracuse. He's now at Syracuse, I believe. And so hopefully, I'm a Syracuse fan, a graduate, so I root for them too. Army and Syracuse are my two teams, and yes, I root for Army over Syracuse. But they're a very, very good team.
They're better than last year. You know why they're better than last year? Because they have a defense this year. They have a defense this year.
And this quarterback's a great player, and he'll be playing on Sundays, I think. They got a bunch of guys out there. This is a solid ACC program, and I think, I don't know, what do you guys think? This might be the best team we've played over the last decade. I go back to the Stanford game in 2013. They were pretty damn good that year. But we gave them a tough game. We lost by a touchdown, more than a touchdown, but less than 2.
Couple touchdowns, I think. That Oklahoma team with Kyler Murray was pretty.
That was probably the other team, but Michigan wasn't as good as this team, in my opinion. Penn State.
Shea Patterson was their quarterback, so I mean they were beatable. They were beatable at that.
Yeah, I think it's I think this team was definitely their defense was legit, super fast. And that always gives Army, it's not the big teams that give Army problems. It's the guys that are just fast, that can outspeed us. And that defense was fast. So
they were physical too, right? I mean, after the play, there's a little bit of roughing up and a little bit that's not going to get. It's a very thin line there to the. Some people were complaining about the ACC officials in this game, but the only complaint that I would have maybe is that Buchanan fumble and ruling it a fumble on the field, because there was a conference for a good couple minutes by the officials before they even ruled anything. I don't think they ruled anything immediately on that play. And then all of a sudden it was a fumble. And then you go to the review and there's not conclusive evidence to do anything with it. So the play has to the play has to stand on the field. And
yeah, if there's that's my thing. If there's no beanbag thrown, then he's down. Like, you have to call him down.
They didn't call, Steve. Did I miss something? They didn't call anything for a while. They got into their conference.
No, you're right. I didn't see. Well, usually, when anybody fumbles, right, you throw the blue beanbag or whatever, the black beanbag, and that's kind of like determining, right? That's making the call on the field that it's a fumble. If there's no beanbag, then. But that's just, I'm kind of biased. I was shocked when I saw it. I wasn't listening to it. I was just watching it because we were just having conversation and stuff. And I was shocked when they came back and it was Wake Forest's ball, and I was like, "What the crap?"
Yeah, and we talked about it, and Steve Kripe's here now to discuss from Crawdad's Countdown the Kickoff to discuss the 45-10 loss. We talked about it earlier. I mean, that's just a punch in the gut. I mean, everything's rolling. You had that nice pass to Tyro Robinson that kind of changed the field for you. You're getting the offense kind of going, and you got Wake Forest maybe a little bit off their feet to start the game. And who knows if they score a touchdown, is the outcome different? Who knows? But it certainly gives Army a good feeling, right? It certainly gives their offense, maybe they play more confidently in the game. I mean, I don't know. It's the same thing, guys. It's the penalties, it's the turnovers, it's the missed assignments, and when you're in week 5 and you're in game 5 of the season, you got to figure out some of this stuff out. I would think by now, and it just hasn't. They haven't put it all together. And Steve, real quick, Steve Kripke, your kind of thoughts on generally on the game.
Yeah, I think it gets back to Monken always says we can't beat ourselves. This was another classic case, as you guys were just talking about, that opening drive, things are looking good, and who knows? And Steve could speak to it a lot better than I could, but oftentimes it's that one play, it's that one series that gets the guys thinking, yeah, we can do that. And who knows if we put it in the end zone. But still, the penalties, the turnovers, I think of Wake Forest's third possession. We get them to turn it over on downs. We've got it. And what do? It was a 3 and out, and the real game turner was a false start penalty. So it's those kind of things right there that, we've got to play nearly flawless football, especially when, Wake Forest, no turnovers, 1 penalty for 5 yards. When a team of that ability and talent does that, and we have a couple of missteps, man, it's tough to overcome.
Did you guys hear Coach Monken talk about what those early penalties were?
Yeah, well, he said in the press conference last night that apparently the defense's signals on the line, how they were shifting their line, were pretty close to what Army signals were. And so after the first 2 false start penalties, Monken talked to the officials and asked them if they could change their defensive line signals or something to that effect. He said that Wake Forest changed their signals after that. But then there was another false start penalty on the drive that Steve was talking about too. So I don't know if that still played a role in it.
I just thought I thought that was kind of a boss move that Monken could get another team to change their call. They probably were like, hey, it's unsportsmanlike, don't do that.
Him and Dave Clawson go way back. They were assistants at Buffalo in 1992, I believe. They're one of their first assistant coaching jobs.
Buffalo.
So it's probably sportsmanship there, by Wake Forest, and but those penalties are going to hurt. They're going to put you off schedule, and then you got to throw the ball. And you know what? I was thinking that Tyler had to throw a little bit more than they probably wanted him to in this game, but he doesn't have a chance sometimes. I mean, you have no time to throw, so you got to scramble, and if you don't get to the outside, you're going to get sacked. I mean, I think they lost a ton of yards on sacks in this game, and set you back more off schedule. And I thought Tyler, for the most part, I mean, I don't think I think he played okay. I think he played all right. It's just like, but what they're up against is you have to play perfect, and all right or okay against Wake Forest just unfortunately doesn't get the job done.
Well, that's exactly it. You got to play perfect. In previous big games, we played much better than this. We didn't yesterday, and it shows. I'd like a stat. When did Wake Forest start putting its second and third teams in there?
Probably 38, 35, 38 nothing. Yeah. Probably in third quarter.
They could have scored more. I think there's some level of respect. Yeah. As there are for the other academies, and I think West Point probably has a little bit more of it, and that kept the score from being worse. This did not come at a good time for Army. I mean, I wish we would have played these guys either earlier or later, but having them at the point of the season, it's we got fortunately we have Colgate, and that should be a win, but it just didn't come at a good time because it's a morale killer. When we need something good to happen, but that's football. You got to play these teams once in a while, and we played a team that, as I said before, is a top team. This is what are they ranked? 12 or 13, I think this week.
Well, they're 15 yesterday, and they had to go up. I meant to check the rankings today. I forgot to check.
12, and they have their tough games. The only tough game they have left really is Syracuse, and
who
knows
if Syracuse. That's not a tough game.
Right. Who knows if Syracuse is any good? I don't think they are. So, I mean, they played their tough games. They played their Clemson and Florida State, and
Yeah.
I don't. They play the other division, other part of the ACC. This is a good team, and we didn't play. We weren't. I don't want to say we weren't prepared, but we didn't play the game we needed to play. Like you guys were all saying, we needed to play to be competitive in the game, and mistakes. You can't make those mistakes. We didn't make those mistakes against Michigan. We didn't. We didn't make.
Yeah, and I think there's even some players that are taking a step back. Before the show started here, Sally, you made the comment about Ballard. Ballard, I thought, took a step back. I mean, both literally and figuratively. I lost track of the number of the passes that he threw off his back foot.
He's throwing too much off his back.
One.
You can't make
his mechanics are pretty solid, and his mechanics were just not there this game. And I don't know if it's an injury or what's going on, but yeah, he's not throwing it like he used to.
Well,
interception
games now since he's thrown the ball. I mean, the last 2 games, they didn't throw the ball at all against Villanova, and last week, they didn't throw the ball enough. He didn't have that many passes. I think had 7 or 8.
1 of 7 against Georgia.
All right, 7. I mean, so you got to keep these guys going. And we talked about this last week about how, or I guess maybe 2 weeks ago, how we didn't pass the ball against Villanova. We should have been doing it. We should have been. It's important to keep these guys loose and in the game. And nothing beats game time experience. We all know that.
Here's the thing. That Villanova game was a culture building win, right? It shouldn't have been a culture building win. Yeah, it just shouldn't have been. You should have been able to do whatever you should have been able to, throw more than once in that game. You should have maybe got the offense a little bit more reps. Here's a stat I figured out tonight, guys. So Army scored 10 points in this game, right? And they scored through the air. They didn't score on the ground. So it's the first time they haven't scored a rushing touchdown in a game in 26 games. The last time they didn't score a rushing touchdown in a game was Cincinnati in the COVID year, 2020. They had Jabari Moore pick up the scoop and score fumble, and they scored 10 points in that game against a really good Cincinnati team.
Yeah.
The 26 games, and now they didn't get the ball in the end zone on the ground in this game. And if they're not going to do that in a game like this, it's definitely not going to go right for them. Steve, from a defensive standpoint, when you're facing a team like Wake Forest, who's going to play, I mean, they're another level than Georgia State, right? Georgia State played fast, but Wake Forest is a different athletes and all that stuff. I mean, it's really kind of, when they get going, it's really hard to stop the bleeding and the momentum. And I mean, it seemed like Army made a play here and a play there, but I mean, they were just too good.
Yeah, I think it was I just, from my experience, and personally, I used to do this sometimes and have to be reeled back in. When you get down by 2 scores, and then you get down by 3 scores, you start thinking, I got to do something special. We gotta get momentum back. We got to figure out something to do to stop the bleeding, right? And that can get guys out of position. That can get guys overextending, setting up creases, and just it can create more problems than it can fix. So I'm not saying that I saw that. It just, for how well that offense runs. I mean, that is how, if we want a chance to beat those, that's how we have to run our offense, right? No mistakes. Everybody's cool, calm, and collected. Everybody's running the offensive scheme, and everybody's where they're supposed to be. 95% of the time. I mean, just watching that offense was, I can't stand the extended mesh. It is a problem, and I think they do it. I don't know if any other team does it as long as, I mean, I literally watched it in there for like 3 to 4 seconds as the quarterback was like inching closer to the line, and then he'd pull it and then just do a quick step. And that's just very tough. And it's a very, I'm not going to call it sophisticated, but it makes the linebackers and, if you have a safety up or, those guys that fill out of the defensive backfield, it's tough on them. So it's But yeah, it's definitely that was one of the hardest Army games I've ever watched. Now I've been a part, and I was telling Seth this earlier. I've been a part of some, 34-0 against Navy. I've been a part of some bad ones, but to actually watch as a fan, that was one of the hardest games to watch as a fan. Just, I mean, there was no answer offensively or defensively. When you have, and I don't know if Ballard was trying to do this, but that pass where he just threw it up and it was not near anybody and it was on his back foot and he just, pick. It was just kind of like, you're just doing too much, man. Like, live to play the next down.
Yeah, and I think that in that situation, there's 15 seconds left in the half, right? You're kind of moving into the red zone. You get a score, maybe you feel good about yourself going into the halftime. Whether it's a field goal, 3 or 7 points, right? Now I was wrong. I thought Army had 2 timeouts when they got the ball, right? I mean when he hiked the ball, but they had that one. But James from As for Football put a good tweet out. Get to the line of scrimmage and clock the ball. There's no reason to rush into a play in that situation. Really, it's first down. You can clock the ball and get settled a little bit. The play seemed a little bit rushed. I mean, you're in the 1 minute or 2 minute right during that play. So during that situation, so the play's a little rushed. But spike the ball, or I don't know, if you have to use your last timeout with 15 seconds left, then so be it. You didn't get any points anyway. You didn't get any points anyway.
Isn't this a common theme we're hearing? Last week we sat at the press conference after Georgia State, and Monken said, hey, this is on me. This was my fault. I didn't have him prepared. I made some mistakes. Him being him and his coaches, I assume. But are we hearing this a lot this year? That that we're making mistakes, that the team is making mistakes that they shouldn't be making, and it might be a combination of the team making mistakes and the coaches putting them in a situation to make those mistakes. I don't remember this happening as much in the past. We've had a couple of good years, and I feel that they're not prepared for each team, with the exception of Villanova, for each team they face so far.
I don't like to make those kind of assessments because I'm at practice, right? When I was at practice every day and I was a beat writer, then maybe I could say, hey, but I'm not there. We're not there, so I can't really make that assessment, Seth. And they may not. Yeah, against Georgia State, they didn't look ready in that game, right? Georgia State looked like it had more excitement. They were just more fired up to play. That was apparent in that game. Like I can't. When you're facing a good team like Wake Forest, I mean, yeah, you got to be ready to go, right? And the offense seemed ready to go to start the game. Like they marched down the field, and then there was the turnover. And in the defense, I mean, it's almost like good luck with the defense. I mean guys.
I know we can go back and forth on this, and I know the coaches will always take the blame, but I mean, I understand there's a personality difference with year to year, but these coaches, they've been working together for quite a while. At least the core group have been working together for a while. To say there's this many games where they're taking on the brunt of it and saying, yeah, we didn't have these guys prepared enough. I understand that there's personalities, right? So, like, what worked last year with that group doesn't work this year with this group or whatever. Yeah. But, I mean, look, man, the seniors better start looking at each other and figure out what kind of year they want to have. Because
they're running out of time.
They're running out of time. And, look, I was fortunate to be a senior class that had a win. A winning record, and we ended on a win. But I was a part of 3 teams before that where we didn't have that. And I saw what it did to those seniors. And I know those guys have experienced success, in their, but look, man, it's tough going out as a football player as a loser, and losing your last game, especially if that last game is going to be against Navy. So I think it really needs let's have the seniors bring the team in, get some accountability, and figure out what kind of season we're going to have from here on out. It's a good week. We can get back in the W column, and we need some momentum to start. And
anything, you know what?
I look at that coaching staff, man, and I look at I know on on a relationship level, Mike Vitti. I know Blake Powers, right? And to think those guys don't have those guys ready for games, I mean, those guys would shoot up in a second. I know they're ready. So,
Well, Steve,
just,
to your point, the rest of the schedule, we can win every game. It's possible. It's possible. I mean, we have a couple of tough teams on there, Air Force, and I'm looking at the schedule here, and Troy, I guess, the ones that stand out as the toughest too. You know, Navy had a great win yesterday. Air Force had a
Oh, yeah.
surprise loss. But I believe Army can win. Army has a chance of winning every single game left on the schedule. Now, are they going to? I don't think so. But there's a chance that this season can be salvaged. It really can. You know, what are we 1-4 now? We could make a run here. I mean, Colgate is obviously beatable. This Louisiana Monroe, you know, I looked at their schedule last night and who they beat and who they didn't beat. We can win. It's a home game. We should win that game. Air Force is going to be tough. But, you know, Troy's
Yeah,
tough
although
game.
Air Force lost to what was then a
1-4.
1-4 Utah State team. So that may have revealed a chink in their armor.
Well, bottom line is right now, Army is if you're doing the CIC standings and you ranked the 3 teams, Army's at the bottom right now, so they got to work their way up. You know,
Oh, yeah.
Navy has 2 wins. You know, and they beat East Carolina and Tulsa. Right. I mean, the conference games for them. So I mean, right now, Army's still sitting at that 1 win, and could they bounce back? Yeah, you know, talking to people today, just through texts and messages, what can change? What's going to change here in Game 6? Do you change the quarterback? Do you have somebody else call the plays? Do you move around personnel? Who do you have? The defensive line's all banged up. Who? I mean, where do you go there? Do you give some guys like a Kamari Copeland a chance to play a little bit more? I don't know. I mean, Jacoby Buchanan banged up. Tyson Riley banged up. Jabari Moore banged up. Bonzu, Hill, Nate Smith, all banged up. We didn't even talk about one of the most important maybe effects of this Wake Forest game. Tyro Robinson's knee injury. It looked pretty serious, and it looked like the extensive time missed for your biggest playmaker on offense. So where are you going there? Ijon Marshall, yeah, he led Army in rushing. I was calling for him to get the ball a little bit more, right? 48 yards was your leading rusher yesterday. Where are you going to go? I mean, Steve, you're right. Step up. This time there's opportunity for people to step up, and you're going to see what the team's made of, basically. So
yeah, I mean, when he got hurt, the way he got hurt, and the time of the game he got hurt, I just was like, man, I just hope, I hope it hurts, it looks worse than it really is, because he is fantastic. He is a great ball player. He is a problem for defenses. He has some really, really unique talent, and that is a blow.
devastating.
It's a blow not just to our depth, but it's a blow to the team to know that you got to go to if we've got to go the rest of the season without that guy.
Do we know anything yet? Do we know the nature?
I don't know. And even if you asked on the Tuesday press conference, you're not going to get an answer. But I think he was on crutches in the second half. He's not playing against Colgate, I tell you that much. And I don't know. It's just a apparent knee injury or leg injury, and we'll see what happens. But it's not like something that didn't look like something that could be. I'm surprised Jacoby Buchanan is playing, guys, to be honest with you right now, because when he got hurt, I thought he was going to be out for a couple games, and he's grinding it. So, I mean, when that first drive, when he fumbles the ball, I mean, he's trying to get the extra yards. I mean, yeah, it's ball security, and you want to have it 100%, especially in a game like that. But I give Jacoby a lot of credit to be out there, because Tyson Riley's out too. So, I mean, I don't know.
And the rumor I heard going into the Georgia State game, he was going to be on the bench and sort of emergency use only kind of thing. And when Tyson Riley went in, he had to go. So I think they were hoping the Georgia State game would be his recoup. But Buchanan, yeah, he is on that. Now, I will say on the silver lining side, if I've been trying to look through this and go, okay, what's the positive?
Give me a positive. Give me a positive.
Yeah, Andre Carter, he was in the mix, and even though he was number 3 on the total, tackles and stuff like that, he was visible. His presence was there. He was one that that they had to account for on that. He was in the picture on a majority of the passing plays, and so it was good to see him in the mix. Would have loved to seen him get a couple sacks and hopefully get that going. But I thought that was a real plus, just seeing him exerting himself and the team having to respond.
He should have got credit for one, right?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
That fourth down play when they called a incomplete pass, that was definitely a fumble by Hart. It didn't matter. Army was going to get the ball anyway.
Yeah.
That was definitely a fumble. I mean, that wasn't a pass.
Yeah. And Seth kind of alluded to it. I mean, this is another game where we were giving up 45 points.
Wow.
Defensively, and it could have been more, most likely. Army's not winning a lot of games giving up 45 points, and that's if you're playing Wake Forest or you're playing, Colgate next week. If we give up 45 points, it's gonna be tough to win any game like that. And I know, Sal likes to focus on the offensive problems, and I like to focus on the defensive problems. And we're still the middle is just it's missing the heartbeat. It's missing the pulse. It's missing kind of the easy keys and reads. And we're young in the middle overall. And it's
experience wise.
Yeah. And it's tough. It's tough to win when you give up 45 points. And I was glad to. I immediately thought it was an AC joint when I saw the play Broughton made. As soon as I saw him make the
another one, yeah.
And as soon as I saw, I remember our free safety had the most ugliest AC joint his senior year, because it was he would just throw his shoulder into people at 185 pounds. And I mean, it was just ugly. And when they started messing with it, I was glad to see it was an AC joint, because I was a little worried it was a, possible labrum or something, the way he kind of hit and turned. But I love watching, I usually watch the linebackers and D-line, the front seven, but watching 2-0 is fun on a lot of plays.
Yeah, hopefully there'll be some highlights for this defense, right? I mean, you look at, Steve, you're talking about Andre Carter, right? I mean, I thought Peyton Hampton got into a few plays too. I thought he was a little bit more active and was reading the offense a little bit better than he had in the past few games. So maybe that's a plus too.
And a couple passes defended really well, and he was definitely in the mix. It was good to see him take that next step.
Yeah, what Christian Jamar was saying. Yeah, I mean, we haven't replaced the center of those guys are potentially some of the best players that ever played that position in recent Army football history. When you talk about Nolan Cockrell, Eric Smith, and Ced Cunningham, right? I mean, those guys are multiple year starters. And you know what, Steve? When you were talking about somebody needing to step up in the seniors, I was thinking about last year, right? When you have 4 captains all on the defensive side, right? And maybe that's just brings a different mindset to the team. Last year, it's a different group. This year, I have an offensive lineman and a safety as the captains, and that's somewhat conventional, right? To have one guy on offense, one guy on defense. And you thought last year, why do they have 4 defensive captains? That can't work out. And they ended up winning 9 games, and they had a pretty successful season. You need more guys than just the captains to step up, right? You need more guys.
Yeah, there's informal leaders. There's your sophomore standouts, right? Like, one of our informal leaders was Trent Steelman.
Yeah.
He was a sophomore quarterback. He was our quarterback. He wasn't a captain, but like, you listen to Trent when, things needed to run through the offense. I mean, Christian makes a great point too, though. We are, statistically playing behind the triple option chains a lot this year. And I don't know if it's, the O-line regressing. I don't know if I'd go ahead and go that far as it just being a combination of it just seems like we don't have the, whether it's reads or push or whatever, it just seems like we're settling for 2 yards or whatever. So I don't know.
I think it's fullback depth too on offense. I think that really is a factor too when you have to play a freshman. Hayden Reed has, for a freshman playing, having to get thrown in there. I mean, I think he's doing a fair job. I think he's running the ball hard. He's picking up some blocks when needed. But it's just to ask a freshman fullback to do that is really tough. And when you have your top 2 guys are banged up. Anthony Atkins is not around this year. And you have guys like him. Markel Johnson's getting some snaps. You wish those snaps would have came a little earlier in the season, but the guys were banged up. Jarrell Dixon got into a little bit toward the end of this game. I know they like A.J. Williams, who's a big back, who's battled some injuries, but the fullback depth is just not there like it was in the past. And when that's your bread and butter, and that sets up everything else to a point, you got to move on to something else, I guess. I don't know.
We have to look at this as we're going to beat Colgate. We better beat Colgate. I think the coaches have to work on the offensive line. They got to push harder. They got to move faster. I haven't liked what I've seen, the way they've been blocking all year, especially the last couple of games. So we got to get healthy. We got to win the Colgate game, obviously, but then we got to get healthy for the rest of our schedule. And I'm looking here at Louisiana Monroe. They're 2-4. They lost a close game to Coastal Carolina at home.
That's not a gimme game. That's not a gimme game.
It's not a gimme game, but we have to be.
Those games are not gimme games anymore.
But I think the Colgate game better be a gimme game because they're not good. They're not one of the better teams in the Patriot League, and we should take care of them. So I think we need to spend the next 2 weeks planning for, yes, no overlook Colgate, but let's get ready, get healthy, keep some of our injured guys out who might be able to play against Colgate. Let's not play them. Get them healthy for the next serious game, which is Louisiana Monroe. And and then of course 2 weeks we get a break after that. We get a week off before we play Air Force. So maybe we can get everybody healthy. And again, I didn't expect us to win this game. I didn't. I gave you my score. I think it's 56-13 or something. I wasn't that far off. They're a better team. They're a great team. Now let's go back to the rest of the schedule where we're not playing great teams all the way through.
Yeah,
we're just not playing.
If I could build upon the comments about the offense, not and we point to the running backs and those kind of things. I mean, the offensive line is talk about beat up right now. Matter of fact, there was even a plebe that got reps on the O-line, Bartosh. When's the last time
I didn't see that? I didn't notice that, Steve.
Yes. So when's the last time you saw Munkin put a plebe offensive lineman in? He's got that standard progression. Let him watch slow maturation on the offensive line. And for him to put a plebe in, that speaks volumes about where they are health-wise on the offensive line.
Yeah. Remember, Booby Law is still out, right?
Yeah.
And Shane Buckingham is still out. And I asked Brent Davis this week, are those guys getting close? And he said he hopes so. And I'm pretty sure they're on the trip, but they're just not ready to play extensive snaps, And, man, maybe you can possibly get those guys back for a Louisiana Monroe or maybe the Air Force game, and maybe that changes stuff because then you can get Connor Finucane to play right guard. He's doing what he can at tackle, and I like when they get Connor Finucane out on the edge to lead the quarterback out there, but maybe that's more of a pulling guard instead of a pulling tackle this time. I don't know.
Remember, the game is almost 4 weeks away. It's almost 4 weeks from now, and
well, I've been waiting. I've been waiting for Booby Law to. He hasn't started yet this year. He played 10 snaps at Coastal Carolina because Simon Dillinger went down, and he hasn't. That's all he's played this year, 10 snaps. So I don't think Steve. He didn't get into the game against Wake Forest, right? I don't think he played against Wake Forest late right now. So I mean, that's a guy where they could really use him. That's a returning starter. That shuffles the line back to where it's supposed to be, so to speak. And the Buckingham guys, I thought when he was playing, Shane, when he was playing earlier this year, he was doing pretty decent for a first-year starter. So they're missing guys on the line, and we'll see. I mean, like we said, this Colgate game has to be a game where you get healthy. And here's my statement. Here's my statement. With the quarterback situation, Jamel Jones comes in, right, and you could say it's garbage time, right? It's the game's out of hand, but he seemed to have the offense under control. He got a good connection with Isaiah Alston going on, and I'm thinking let Jamel Jones start against Colgate. Give him a chance to start. He's a senior. He started games before. Let him start. Tyro's a little bit banged up from what the Tony Marino said on the radio. He was a little banged up toward the end of the game. Give Jamel a chance to start. I mean, get him some reps. Get Bryson Daly some reps in this game. And see
I
what
don't
happens.
care who starts. I don't care who starts. Let's just stay with one quarterback. Let's go with one quarterback. But bringing one guy in and then taking him
Not
out.
happening, Seth. Not happening, man.
I think they got. I think they got to do that. Go with your best quarterback, and a runner and a thrower, whoever that might be, and maybe it is Jones. I don't know, but let's just go with him. Let's
He can do both. Jamel can do both. I mean, I don't know.
I know you guys. I know you guys love beating up the offense, but we got to stop people. Okay, we got to stop people. We got to grind. We got to grind the ball on offense. Limit possessions for the other team. All right. We got to limit possessions. That's one of our keys, right? Clock management, absolutely. Limit possessions, and we got to stop people. And look, this week, look, I guarantee it, the seniors are going to go in, or the captains or whoever, and they're going to sit down, they're going to rededicate themselves to the contract they all signed at the beginning of the year, whether that's a physical contract or just an intuitive contract where it's like, look, season hasn't started the way we wanted it to, all right? But with that mentality Seth just brought up, every game is winnable from here on out. So let's go 1-0 against Colgate, all right? Get that momentum back, all right? Hold them under 20 points, all right? And, just get that momentum, all right? I'm, Jamel Jones, quarterback, offense.
Hey,
I'm all about it. Just I'm partial to Seth, right? I prefer just having one guy in the game. I think it gets the ups and flows. You get the feel for the game better. But I've never coached an offense before, so I don't know shit. You know what I mean?
Defense knows you're going to throw the ball. When you're putting in a passing quarterback and taking out a running quarterback, the defense knows that you're most likely going to throw the ball, and vice versa. You can't do that. You got to keep, you got to do that. Yeah. And to go after the Army defense. One more thing, I was talking to somebody who watched the game, not with me, but afterwards, and his comment was, "Why are we always playing so far off in the defensive backs that the only way we stop a completed pass if the quarterback throws a bad pass, for whatever reason? Maybe we're rushing them, whatever it is. Our Army's notorious. I've been watching this team for 50 years, older than you guys, we're notorious for playing off the receivers. And you got to play tougher. You got to play. They got to train these guys a little. Maybe they don't have the talent. Maybe that's it. I
think you're
the short pass.
Spot on, Seth. Because I think especially on a run pass option kind of thing. There's a timing, there's a rhythm to that kind of thing. And if you jam those guys at the line, throw off that rhythm, I think you've got a better likelihood. But to Steve's point, we've been pointing, picking on the offense, but defense needs to step up. I mean, you look at the national statistics where we're in the bottom 25% of FBS schools. Total defense, rushing defense, team passing efficiency defense, third down conversion rate defense. All of those were in the bottom 25% of FBS schools.
Got to get off the field because that's not the offense getting first downs on third down, especially third and medium, third and long. It doesn't just keep you on the field. It hurts a little bit, It's kind of like a jab or a cross because you're just like, man, we could have got off the field there and, change the field, switch the field, whatever you want to call it. But that, that's, I just feel like we got to stop people in order to win games. I don't think we're going to be putting up a lot of points in a lot of games.
No.
And just based off of what we've seen, and I always go back to what I was told is, eventually, our offense is going to save our defense, and our defense is going to save our offense. And it's just funny how that kind of works. But
yeah,
I'm all about it. We got to get some accountability. We got to get the seniors to rejuice the team up and just beat Colgate next week.
Hey, on the lighter side of things, Steve, just got followed by your former teammate, center of the 2010 Armed Forces Bowl champion, Zach Peterson.
Yeah.
Major Zach Peterson just followed me on Twitter and followed our Black Knight Nation Twitter account also. Zach's now working with the team, right? He's
living up at West. Me and Zach go back to 2006. We played prep school. He's been my center since 2006 at prep school. But yeah, he works with the team. He works. I think he's in the admissions. He'll be there for 3 to 4 years, hopefully. And again, it's always good to have guys that have experienced winning back there to help with the program. I know we had that. When I was there. So we just gotta. And Zach knows. Zach will probably tell you we had a little heart to heart when we were going through some rough spots. So it's good. It's accountability. It's leadership. It's one game at a time. Colgate beat them, and then just kind of go from there.
Well, I'd like to Sal knows me well enough now. I'm kind of a doomsayer sometimes. I see that.
There we go, dark cloud. Here we go, dark cloud.
I'm going to give you a bright sunlight here. I think this Army team can still be bowl eligible. I think looking at the schedule, I think Connecticut, they won 3 games, but they beat Fresno State, which is 1-4. They beat Florida Atlantic or Florida International, which is terrible. They're terrible. Okay. We can beat UMass. Navy, you never know. It comes down to a couple of games here. And the couple of games, of course, Colgate we should beat. It's Louisiana Monroe, which I think they're 2-4. I think we can beat them at home. Air Force is, good but beatable. And then, of course, Troy. So I still think we could be a 6-6 team. I really do. I think this team is I saw it in Villanova. Yeah. I've seen some other positive things. And they might be 7-5. They have to win out. Basically, it was one game. But I think.
Let me throw a wrench in the works there. So only one of the 2 FCS games can count toward it. Now I've heard rumors that because of the circumstances that we had to book Villanova, last minute cancellation, there were no FBS teams available. That they may be in discussions with the NCAA where we could count both of those. But then they make bowl selections the week prior to Navy. So right. Navy's off the board. We effectively have to have 6 wins prior to that. And that would be tough. It's almost going to take a situation that has happened, matter of fact, definitely happened in COVID, where teams, they were taking teams with fewer than 6 wins because there were not enough eligible. So
yeah,
went last year 5-7. They finished 5-8. They went to a bowl game. Okay, Army has a lot more appeal than Rutgers, trust me. And I believe that we enter the Navy game, 6-5 with the Colgate win. I think somebody's going to take us. I do. I think because Army.
That means run the table, Seth. That means run the table.
Well, we have an automatic tie-in with the Radiance Independent Bowl, and Radiance is a corporation. A lot of West Point leadership there. You look in Shreveport and as well as the governor of Louisiana, West Point ties. Yeah, they want us there, and if there's any way to get it done, they're going to grab us. But I think we've got to make it easy for them.
Guys, this is all great assumptions. Okay, we're all having fun here talking about the what ifs. Okay, we got our asses kicked by Wake Forest. We got to get back to the drawing board. All right, and we got to beat Colgate. All right, before we can talk about 6 wins, CIC or anything.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, we got to fix our third down defense. We got to fix our first, our first down and getting triple option down in distances. All right. We got to stop people. And we got to get some accountability and some leadership out there and just make sure the team knows, like, everything you're saying is good. And I think that can be in the back of our mind. But what we need to do is just beat Colgate. All right, that's it. We're going to do it.
I buy each one of you guys a drink if Army doesn't finish 6-6 this year. At least 6-6.
I'm always down for that, Seth.
Okay. I'm
We
calling
can use some of your mugs back there.
All right.
That's my sports
Steve,
day. My mugs.
Steve, well, what final thoughts you got?
Yeah, I'm with you. If I'm in the locker room with the guys, we're not having this discussion right now about finishing 6-6 and going to bowl games and stuff like that. So yeah, we've got to next game got to keep the focus. But I think these next two games I think are high probability wins, and they need to be statement wins. Beat the spread, go out there. To me, the two biggest metrics, turnovers and penalties. Those have got to be zeroed out. And I think if they can do that, these next two games, really find their rhythm both offensively and defensively, then I like our chances down the home stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. The penalties and the turnovers, that cut those down, be more successful, right? Guys, great. Some great talk about the program where the team is right now. Unfortunately, we did have to review a little bit that Wake Forest game. But if you're watching this now, check out our YouTube channel, and we recap every game the Black Knights play. We have former Army players and former Army athletes on the podcast too. I'll post press conferences there also, and we're getting some feedback on comments too during our YouTube interviews after they post live. Check out Black Knight Nation. I wrote a quick game story on the Wake Forest game. We had photographer Margaret Kite at the game live. I posted the photo gallery there of the photos, and this week Colgate. Seth, are you available for the Colgate game this week?
I am not. I am up at my college reunion up at Syracuse, so I'm going to watch the Orange play North Carolina State.
There you go. All right. Well, we'll have some form of coverage
Back
of the
in 2
Colgate game. He'll be back for Louisiana
Yes.
Monroe, that big game against Louisiana Monroe. Seth will be back in the press box for that one. So, guys, thanks again for checking us out, and we'll be back here. Try to get a guest this week, Steve, for the podcast. See what we can do on that front. And thanks again. Army 45-10 goes down to Wake Forest. Colgate up next. Let's see if the Black Knights can get their second win of the season at Mikey Stadium on Saturday.
Beat them.
Army.
Beat Colgate.